Before we get going into your Hockey IQ podcast episode, I want to thank our sponsor, Rapid Shot. Rapid Shot is the smart shooting lane. It's like a batting cage for hockey players. Very cool. Tracks your shot in 3 ways: accuracy, shot speed, and reaction time. Easy to use. Actually, I used it when I played and was growing up. Very easy. Simply scan your phone in, select your settings, and start shooting. You can see your stats on the app and online. You can check them out at rapidshot.com. Great small business. I actually grew up with one of the owner's sons and have played with all the family members by now, just in local pickups here in Ohio. Very cool local business. Awesome product. I love it. I know quite a few NHLers have them in their homes. A lot of D1 programs have it at their rinks. So you have to check this out. Rapidshot.com. Check it out. Rapid Shot, thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast. On the Hockey IQ podcast this week, we bring back, for the first time ever, someone for their second round. Mike Teplitzky is back in the house. Mike, good to have you here.
Good morning. How you feeling? How you doing?
Well. Really well. We had an interesting conversation that we just had to record on. And I've mentioned it many times on this podcast with other guests, but like how being a coach makes you a better player, and that coaches for those first probably 1 to 3 years, because the physicality and the increase in hockey IQ line up. It's just amazing how that is the best hockey they play. And it's out of competition, which is quite hilarious. So really, I'll let you drive this a little bit and maybe touch on your thoughts on where we should take this conversation and what even brought up this topic in the first place.
Well, I think, I remember we had conversations at times about where we were playing beer league or where we were playing, adult league, maybe on the more or less competitive side, just kind of, a topical conversation. And I had mentioned that I was kind of seeing things better or feeling comfortable and confident in areas that I never really had as much confidence in before. And you had brought that idea up to me that, it's common for coaches to take a step back after a couple of years of coaching, and, the things they're reinforcing to their young adults kind of can tend to come to them on the ice in ways that may not have made perfect sense or flowed as easily previously, and proven to be very true in my case, especially recently. I just feel like I've been playing, some of the best hockey that I've ever played because my brain's firing in that way.
I really like the word you used, confidence. You have more confidence out there. And it may not be because you're working out more and you're a physical freak now. So I'm curious, you're talking about the confidence and you're being able to think the game better. Maybe give us an example of some areas that you feel like you've really grown in, or just things that like, hey, I'm seeing this now.
The best way I think to put it would be habits and progressions. So the one disclaimer at the beginning that I would say, it's easy to feel comfortable diving into different areas when you know that if you cross between the circles, you're not going to get hit. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, Mike Tyson. So I know I can try different things in the high traffic areas and in the slot that I might not have been able to do in high school because of, my size or confidence in being about elbow height to everybody else. Things are also relative based on, who you're playing with and against. I mean, I know if I was playing against, actually that's kind of odd in my case. One of the best hockey games that I've played in, I can't even remember how long, was the pickup we just had, where there were a good handful of guys with some pretty good hockey experience. A couple guys that had played juniors in college or just some higher level guys. I know a couple of Barons, and I was pretty surprised to be able to hang with that group to the extent that I did. But kind of diving into where my head's at, it's just gotten so much more automatic right now to think through passing progressions, high percentage of success passes on the breakout. The quick out is so far down the list of progressions that I'm making much smarter weak side passes, at times recognizing that inversion of passing opportunities isn't just when entering the offensive zone. Sometimes in your breakout, the best option is a pass negative, is a pass behind. That's one of the areas that I've started to feel really, really comfortable. And I know you've seen this I've showed you video, and you've seen it in games that we and I have played together. Being open means something much different to me than it used to. That 6 inches of space for my blade to be open, it still means I'm open. So where I might have in the past recognized the need to be on the back door, if I'm stationary, a stationary defenseman is able to keep eyes on the puck carrier and know where I am at the same time and defend me easily if we're both stationary. So it's become almost automatic to back out of a space and attack that space at the right time to get momentum towards where I'm going, and to essentially clear out some room for me where a defenseman has to make a choice, rather than I can, face up the puck carrier and be stick on stick with me. Now you got to make the choice. Are you stick on stick with me, or are you defending a pass? I've just come into your area at the last second. Those are two of the areas my head's really at.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to maybe go back a step and, where was your head in the past? And then we can progress a little bit more to where it is today, because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. I'll even take a step back further. I've always been pretty small. I'm 5'5" now. I started, in high school, I was a little bit under 5 foot tall. So walking guys or blowing through guys wasn't really going to be my option. I was going to score goals by being in the right place and repeating good habits. I even remember, from then till now, watching watching guys in the league that played the way I thought maybe I should be playing, and that would get, that would show up on the score sheet, points and assists, the ways that I thought I would. So I used to watch guys on the grind line. I used to watch Chris Draper and really follow where he would go. Big fan of Patrick Eliash and seeing how he utilized his skills to make up for that big height difference. Him having to try to power through an area where Chara is, that's going to be different than if Tom Wilson tries to do it. Dustin Brown, Boone Jenner, how are those hustle forwards? What are they doing to put themselves in the best position to be successful? So my views had tended to be find open space. Well, open space isn't necessarily always around the net, or open space isn't necessarily beneficial if you just happen to be where no one else is, and there's no need to know where you are because you're kind of lost. You're sort of in no man's land. So for me, my focus has kind of transitioned to where is open space in the high traffic areas, in the dangerous areas. How do I utilize those habits and that mindset of do this differently, problem solve on the fly? How do I get open and find open space in the slot where all the bodies are? How do I get that open stick? How do I vacate the area and come in at the right time, at the right angle to get open in an area where it's hard to be open? My mind used to be go to the net, stick down, make a wide base. That's step one, but trying to make sure that I'm not as easily defendable.
You had a lot of garbage goals, as they call it, back in the day. I remember you were just a nasty
how many did
around
those
the
count
rink.
for? How many did those count for?
All they count all the same, man.
So hard to tell high school kids. So hard to tell high school kids that a garbage goal rebound off the third shot counts the same as a bar down snipe from the circle, and they don't want to hear it. They all want to wheel snipe Sally, and I'm like, no, dig, pick up the trash, clean it up, counts as one. Same thing.
The exact same. But I remember, yeah, you would just go to the net and be around the net, just being a little bit of havoc, and people didn't know what to do with you, especially if they were taller, because they're like, well, how do I push this guy out? I gotta like actually bend my knees for once. Like, what the heck? Incredible. So I thought with that one pickup game that you referenced earlier, I enjoyed how you were starting to understand the speed differentials, like being the late man versus being the first man, or just as soon as you get into the zone going towards the net, or being that low option. There's a great opportunity where a puck came back to you and you're able to go from left to right and shoot against the grain 6-hole. And it was just a gorgeous snipe. So I'm curious how, we talked about being around the net. How has your play evolved maybe through like the neutral zone or end zone entries?
But kind of a continuation off of trying to find open space. I tried to simplify things a lot when I was in high school to not put myself in situations where I had to think too much. So it always seemed to me, F1 with the puck go wide, F2 with the puck back, or F2 back door, and F3 high slot. And the puck is now by the wall, and there's a lot of space between our teammates' sticks, and there's a lot of space between the puck and the net. So where my view has changed a bit is if I can find ways to attack towards the net rather than take the puck wide or put myself in the corner, that's my goal. Again, it's easier if I can skate down, towards the left face-off dot and then cut inside right to the middle. And I know that no one's going to take my head off. That's helpful. I know that. But a way that I've really tried to kind of exploit that area is changing my speed, my attacking speed towards the defenseman through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone. Make it hard to match my speed and maintain a stable gap that the defenseman can close on their terms. I want to close the gap on my terms. So I'll alter my speed. I also, and I've noticed I've been getting a lot better, high quality, not just shots on net, but scoring chances by skating into the zone towards a defenseman. I'll start off wide and then skate directly towards a defenseman to turn their skates towards me. So I've made them make a decision. They're going to turn their skates towards me because I'm skating right towards them. So they're giving me a little bit of extra space. And now I can change direction. I can try to walk a defenseman wide by changing their skates first, not the other way around. Third thing I've really tried to be focused on, I noticed that I would attack the zone with the puck in front of me. And then generally around the tops of the circles, the puck would go to my right heel. Hey, everybody, he's shooting. The puck's on his right heel. It went from in front of him to his right heel. He can pretty much only shoot right now. So I've tried to, without overstick handling, I don't want to chop wood. I've tried to mix up my looks of where I'm carrying the puck. So alternating between having the puck kind of off the front of my right toe in sort of a triple threat situation where I can pass, I can continue to skate, or I can put my hands out in front of me and use kind of downward leverage on the puck to get off a quick wrist or snapshot. That's kind of a triple threat situation for me, rather than having the puck back at my feet where my only option is either to shoot or just to slow down so I don't lose the puck. It's different habits. I mean, it's taken time, and it's sometimes it doesn't look super pretty, but trying to challenge myself and utilize those habits that I try to instill in players in my own game against guys that are bigger than me and faster than me.
And I use something similar. So I joined a new pickup on Wednesday mornings when I moved to Columbus. And at first, I was like, man, you got some good hands. I'm like, here, I'll tell you the secret. If I'm stick handling in front of me, I'm pretty much wanting you to come at me, and I'm going to pull that sucker back. If it's at my side, now you should probably be worried that I'm about to make a pass. It's both are good habits to have where you can stick handle in front of you and to your side, but it's how you use it in manipulation that I find the fascinating and something that isn't utilized enough. Like, why do you stick handle in front of you? When should you put it to the side? Like, I think that is a conversation that players should be having with themselves or with their parents, and just like talking through that, because it is something that should be done. Like, you want to have an element of manipulation, an element of deception. When, where, why, how. Like, those are the keys for me when we're talking about how do we utilize stick handling as a skill. Like, you were talking about skating, right? Like, skating fast is an asset, but how do we weaponize that asset? Okay, in your situation, and should be in every player situation, should be the change of speed. And when we're talking about speed differentials, it's the difference of your speed to the defenders. So either you're speeding up while they're slowing down, or they're slowing down while you're speeding up. You know, catching a defender flat-footed would be a perfect example of a positive speed differential, where you've got so much speed and you're able to blow by them. Well, that's great. And a lot of players, especially if they're good skaters early, have that, and they have success with that. And then they just keep going back to the well, but other kids start to catch up, or they get pushed to a higher level of hockey where that's not exactly, you can just go at a player, skate as fast as you can, and have that be a reliable source of offense. So how do we weaponize that? Maybe we need to be slowing down, or, you know, when do we want to slow down, draw a player in, and then we accelerate and use that speed and really weaponize it. I think that is something, those are two key elements, one with your hands, one with your feet, that every player can utilize in some capacity, no matter your skill level.
Particularly from the mindset of someone who's primarily coached Bantam and high school. I've seen that a lot, where someone's been kind of identified as really good in mites or squirts, and in an effort to win games, everybody pretty much, you know, you get the puck to Johnny and you kind of clear out, and Johnny can go coast to coast in squirt and peewee and Bantam. And then Johnny gets to high school and he's 14 and guys on the other side are 18. And the first time Johnny gets yard sailed, Johnny's freaked out because his main skill set, someone's figured it out, and he's kind of neutralized and going, well, I've never really had to problem solve with this situation because it's never come up. Gift or a curse, I guess. I've never had that problem where I had to figure out, well, I can no longer walk everybody, so what do I do now? But a place that I keep saying problem solve, because it's like football plays that you can just like, let's repeat this 500 times till it looks the same every time, because there's 10 variables that are going to happen on the ice at any given time. So problem solving on the fly is really going to be important. I know my own comfort has tended to be puck out in front of me, pull the puck back to my right heel, and with as much forward weight transfer as I can, shoot from my heel. If I do that every time down the ice, everybody on the ice, everybody in the stands, live barn, everybody knows I'm going to shoot when the puck goes back to my heel. I also know that I'm comfortable shooting with my left arm close to my body, which that hurts the ability to get a good forward transfer if my hands are that close to my body. Don't have a good range of motion, not a lot of forward transfer. So I've really tried to be cognizant and work on every time that I'm not in game and I have a puck on my stick, working on shooting with my hands farther from my core with my hands out in front of me. Shooting from different positions, getting good stick on puck from different positions, not just the puck on my heel, puck on my right toe. Quicker, more unpredictable release, or where can I move the puck? Kind of a back to front toe drag. What can I do from the position where the puck's on my heel that isn't a shot, where those two motions are going to look similar? Is a shot coming? Is a toe drag coming? Is the puck just going right back up to the, to my toes? What does that look like? Again, sometimes it doesn't look pretty, but I know I'm not growing if every time I get the puck, I, haul ass as fast as I can with the puck in front of me, pull it back to my heel and shoot. It can't look the same every time.
Well, I think that touches on the iceberg of playing with expectations. Like, one of my favorite plays in the NHL is just a simple, fake dump and then just skate it across the line. Like, you have the motion, the body language, the body shape, everything says, hey, I'm about to rip this puck in and rim it around. And then just the last second, oh, nope, not going to do it. Like, that's a simple example. And there's a million others of there's so many patterns in the game that happen. How can you play off of what people are expecting on that? Like, sooner or later you do something, 2-3 times. Okay, well, now people are expecting the same thing. And then suddenly, boom, right-hand turn. It's kind of like the movie The Prestige. I forget what the 3 elements are off the top of my head, but basically show an expectation, turn it, and then boom, you're revealing the magic that is. So I think that's a fascinating conversation to have. And you're a lifelong learner. You were a teacher for many years. You're a very good question asker. So feel free to jump in and ask any questions here. And we can make this a little more conversational.
Sure.
I'm curious, maybe your thoughts on it, or your questions around playing with expectation.
It's interesting when it comes to playing at this point. I mean, I still want to win, but obviously the goals are, it's playing to have fun and playing to improve and exercise and be, emotionally fulfilled and mentally fulfilled by what I'm doing. So not so much, if we lose, I'm coming home, devastated. But my goal is to see in myself more of that. Let's say I come home and I scored, 2 goals off of rebounds, saying, okay, what did I learn from that? Right. Or I had had a pretty rough game. So, well, where did I step outside my comfort zone? What is something that I did differently, or an opportunity that I saw to try to build on a habit or take advantage of something? Something that I've noticed a whole bunch. I've been trying to watch a ton of Capitals games because I want to see how teams react and generally overreact to Ovi. So, that pass from Backstrom from the top of the, right at the center blue line to the top of the left circle, especially on the power play, that's a one-timer. Everyone knows that's a one-timer. It's a 105-mile-an-hour slap shot. When it's not, and he winds up like a golf driver, stops right at the point of the ice and fires one looking like it's going to be a slap shot as hard as he can on the ice, right on Oshie's stick, 3 inches from the back post for an easy tap-in goal. That's the biggest middle finger to whatever team they're playing. That, yeah, I can do that too. I mean, you think what's coming because I've done it 275 times. Whoop, right through. So those, obviously, that's not where I live in hockey right now, but eyeing opportunities to make things look different. And that's when I feel like I'm growing. My expectation on myself of myself is, am I growing and, finding other opportunities to exploit the, how many situations are there? How many moments are there in a hockey game? 500 moments. The team that wins most of those moments, they're going to win the game. How can I win more and more of those moments? How can I build on good habits and kind of utilize, tactics that I've discussed with players, with you, with other coaches, to try to win more and more of those small moments?
And that's a fascinating conversation as well, because you're getting into the process. Like, I feel like it's got to be better from a fulfillment standpoint. Like, who doesn't love getting better and feeling, oh, I've got this new capacity? Like, that's got to be fun first. And then secondly, just the idea of these micro events rather than the macro events, which are the goals, the big scoring chances, whatever it may be. And they only come around per player. A normal player probably gets one or two. Top liners are probably getting maybe 3 or 4, and then those top end players maybe get 5 or 6. So, like, especially for those top guys that maybe go to be those middle guys at the next level, where you're going from 5 or 6 grade A chances every game to maybe 1 to 4, and now you've got to make the most of that. Like, that's a confidence hit, because you're used to, like, oh, I'm going to just get another chance. Like, it's not that hard. Well, now you've got to go to the point where you're not getting as much. Like, how do you define success? Like, is it goals and points? Is it, I got more chances, I turn the puck over less? Like, going from goal oriented, which is goals, assists, points, yada, 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 to more of that process. I think that's a fascinating conversation, because there's, I don't know if it's 5,000, that might be a bit high, but I would say at least, probably 500 passes or 500 like little micro situations that you can analyze in your own head per game that lead to those things, but those things aren't guaranteed. It's like the same thing with hard work. Like, hard work just sets you up for success. It doesn't guarantee success, doesn't mean you're going to have success, but it puts the odds a lot more in your favor. And that's really what we want as hockey players, is to shift from maybe something where we're going 40% success rate to a 60% success rate, or 60 to 80. Anything over 80, it's probably time to go to the next level. Unless you're Connor McDavid and there's just no further level to go to. But like, those micro events and just increasing how good we are at those, and those little details and the habits that go into it, like, that is just so powerful for hockey players for life. Like, understanding the process that goes into getting results, and understanding it's not guaranteed, but now you're understanding maybe the law of large numbers, reversion to the mean, just whatever that element is, to understand where you should be. Like, maybe, I'm scoring at a 20% shooting rate, probably not going to continue. Don't get discouraged when it does. As long as you're still getting the chances, you've got a good process, you're having good success in all these little micro situations. It's just a different way to think about the game. And I'm curious what your experience has been, maybe going from that, where I'm looking to get rebound goals and get to the net. And if I'm putting my puck on the stick, having the puck on my stick this amount of times and getting these many shoves around the net or whatever it may be, to then going to these micro events is kind of your barometer. And I'm assuming you're not looking at other players' statistics. You're just worried about, how is my performance?
I mean, right now my barometer is myself today versus myself last week. I'm not trying to compare. I mean, I can only play against who's on the other team. So I'm not, comparing myself right now to others. I probably would be doing that back in high school, or, back when there's, very like stringent, like when there's standings and when we're keeping a ton of stats and all that. I mean, it was hard for me not to want to compare myself to everyone else. But right now, the challenge that I'm giving myself, and particularly my mind, is if I change my focus to trying to really build on these good habits and trying to figure out new ways to win more of those micro events, more of those micro battles, the result probably won't be less goals and less assists. Those two things I would think would be pretty directly proportional. That the more often you put yourself in positive situations, the more often I get significantly lower than the defenseman when I'm being very active in the high and low slot, that's unlikely to result in less goals and less assists. So instead of the be all end all being I've scored, I scored more goals or I didn't score more goals, that's either success or failure. That'll come, but it's those other, it's the other aspects of it. Am I making, because I'm going through the correct progressions in my head, am I making less, costly turnovers? We're all going to make turnovers, but am I making less costly turnovers? Am I getting myself trapped in a corner less often? It's funny that I was just thinking about this, in the slot. I remember watching when I was first coaching with your dad. I remember at Chagrin watching video of Crosby going down to one knee to put pucks home in the slot, and thinking, I would fall on I would do the splits and end up in the hospital if I'm trying to get down to one knee for all those shots. And now routinely I'm as low as I can get. And I guarantee you, defensemen, you can't get lower than me. If you're going to, you're going to have to push me onto the ground to take me out of the play because I'm lower than you. Maybe not to the full extent of that kid that in that video you sent me from the Rochester Americans, the kid who's literally down on both knees with his hands 6 inches from the blade.
Yeah, playing mini sticks.
Yeah, he's playing mini sticks the whole way. But I mean, that's kind of a lot of times how I play in front is that's something I repeat. Get lower than them, get lower than them, get lower than them. When I'm coming out of our zone, if I have the puck behind the net, if I skate out into the corner, I box myself in. The only options now I have are to pass. I'm defended whatever direction I decide to skate. I'm easily defendable. And my best pass is now a very far cross ice weak side pass. If I split the goal line between the net and the faceoff dot, now I've got more options. I've won that event by not allowing myself to be forced into a turnover. That's one more event that I've won, and it's better for my team. So I know that was a lot of information right there, but that's kind of the inner monologue that happens when I'm on the ice.
And I really love that term. It wasn't so much like having to win the battle, but as long as you're keeping your options open, that you can make decisions, like not getting boxed into a spot. Like, do you find yourself, like, I think about players that consistently go down the wall and they consistently get themselves boxed out, and there's literally all you can do is ice the puck or put it in deep, and there's nothing else you can do. Like, simply getting in the dot line is a massive improvement for them. And like finding different ways to keep open the optionality and the decisions that you can possibly make is just massive. Like simply just going from, okay, I'm consistently boxed out and I have nothing left here except for one option, versus, okay, at least I have 2 or 3 options at all times. May not be the most comfortable at first, but you do have those options available to you. And it just opens up the game and opens up the possibilities for play, which the transition's probably not going to happen overnight because you're not used to those reads yet. But after a little bit, it's going to be something that absolutely transforms your game. And I'm curious, maybe you found that. I know in my game, like just simply getting off the wall, and if all else is equal, like I'm going across the ice almost from like one dot line to the other dot line and just seeing what happens, like just trying to buy time to see if a play evolves or happens, or if a teammate's able to skate up with me. Maybe they're late in the play and I just need to buy a little bit of time. And for me, it's like every defender has this little bubble around them of like, this is my ice, this is my responsibility, which is definitely a characteristic trait like great defensemen have, is like this responsibility. And it's probably why a lot of them become A's and C's, part of the leadership group. So they have that leadership, like almost like motherly and fatherly to them. So when I'm thinking about coming and playing against opponents, it's like every opponent has their circle. Some are smaller, some are bigger, that, hey, this is my ice, this is my coverage. And like, how can I be on the very edge of that, or just in it or just out of it, to put it in an awkward situation? Like, I know you want to come stick check me, but I'm a little bit too far than you're comfortable with. Or how do I go just inside of it where they can't quite get me, but they're going to come wherever I go, and I'm able to really move them, move the pieces around the chessboard, as they say, and move them over into a space. So maybe I create a 1-on-2 where I'm going 1 against 2, move that other defenseman where I go in their spot in that little bit of like soft circle, slide over to where the other defenseman feels like, oh, this is my guy as well. Now I've got 2 guys, and I can just filter a nice little area pass into a teammate with speed coming into that now vacated spot that I move that defender from. Like, for me, that's what I'm trying to do, and how I'm trying to create this optionality, and trying to manipulate the defenders. Like, just understanding that every defenseman feels a responsibility for a certain area. Like the ones that are a little bit smaller, okay, now you've got more room to operate in, a little harder to manipulate, but usually those guys are not going to be able to gap up as well. So that's what goes through my mind when I'm thinking about rush, optionality. How do I control? How do I manipulate?
I love that you use the phrase manipulate. And I know that's something you and I have discussed in the past. What I've noticed from my game, when I consciously go into, when I'm attacking the zone, those thought processes of, what do I want to make the defenseman do? How do I want to attack the zone or attack the defenseman? Do I want to go towards, skate right at a defenseman, or try to take a defenseman? When I'm consciously thinking about manipulating the defenseman, the game slows down to me, where I'm more easily able to see what passing options I have or what attacking options I have when I'm the one manipulating the defenseman, not the other way around, where I'm not reacting to the defenseman's attacking. I'm going to, attacking towards me with a stick. I'm going to move the puck towards me and slow down. I'm the one making I'm the one forcing the decision on his part. And when that really, started to, kind of come out, when we played that pickup game, I know that I keep making reference to that. When I saw who was on the ice on the other team, and just the much faster speed of that game than what I'm used to playing in right now, I was thinking, this game's going to come really fast at me. And it seemed slow. The game slowed down because I am more consciously aware of what I'm attempting to do. And all right, progression 1, progression 2, progression 3, that's the pass I want to make. Progression 1, progression 2, that's where I want to attack. I noticed, and then I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but there's a shift where I know you and your brother were both on the other side, and I was playing D just randomly on that shift. And I saw the puck shift really fast. I was the right D, and I saw the puck shift very fast from my side half wall around the net into the opposite corner. And the forward on my side shot way too far past the slot. And right when I saw that, that's when I stick tapped hard, and I skated very, very hard at a 45-degree angle on the top of the slot to take a pass. And I think that's when that 6-hole goal was that you were talking about. Like, right when I saw that puck change ice and saw that forward turn his back, I'm thinking, there's open space right there that I want to attack. Not yet, now. And I was able to get the puck in stride because I was consciously aware. The game slowed down for me.
Well, that's a fascinating concept as well, of like playing in the shadows, like behind someone. Like, their body orientation does not allow them to truly see what's going on, whether they can't see it physically or it's they can't see it even with a good shoulder check. Like that's absolutely massive. And like playing in that shadow area, and like it's a good way where you're playing outside of the defensive shape, or you're playing behind someone like a guy who's playing bumper on a power play, playing behind someone to create like a mini 2-on-1, and playing in that shadow area where they can't really see it or they can't really gauge exactly what's going on. And unless like a defender puts a stick or a hand on that player, like it's just impossible to truly understand. And then you can start to give off false information. Like maybe I start sneaking this way, and as soon as they turn their head, boom, I'm going the other direction. And just playing in those shadows and how you can feed false information into players to turn it into your advantage.
I think for me, there are parts of that take time and confidence. Like for instance, if I'm ever playing D, like let's say I'm the strong side D, and the forward's way too high up, right in my pocket. I know that in that case, I'm coaching at times I've coached my defensemen. If that forward's going to be right in your pocket, gauge how strong a forward they are. But if they're not a huge offensive, breakaway threat, front the forward, jump in front. Now you've taken that forward out of the play. They're essentially a cherry picker at that point. And getting the confidence to do that more often, and even then still jump in at 45-degree angles to be an offensive opportunity, an offensive asset as a defenseman, while still being cognizant, counting that clock. I get the puck, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I've shot, I've passed, I've done whatever. Now get back, continue to front that forward, but not, giving up on my defensive zone responsibilities. Just stuff like that, where as I do it, I get more and more comfortable with it. And it's, kind of goes back to those small, those small 500 things that happen in a game. Did I just create a 5-on-4 in our zone? Yes. One more little win for us.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. And actually, I had a really interesting experience this past week. My coworker, heritage-wise, is Canadian, so he picked up hockey late in life. So he's playing D-League down here, and after the season's over, you can secure rental ice and just have shinny or practice or whatever you want to do. So his team did that, and he asked me to come out and coach. So I'm coaching all of these guys from, oh man, they got to be 60. Some are down into their 30s. Maybe one kid is in their 20s, but like wide age range. Not the most talented, not the most skilled, and like seeing how they are, like what are the deficiencies in their game. It's very fascinating because like they're not even thinking about this kind of stuff. Like, how do I take a better slap shot? How do I take a better X, Y, and Z? And like just like simple things like a good body shape. Like you were talking about weight transfer earlier. Like that's just a foreign concept. Like never heard of it. But one of the things
you're not working hard on getting guys feeling comfortable using their outside edges.
It's exactly what I'm doing. A lot of crossovers. A lot of crossovers. There was one player really struggled with even being able to do a crossover, which it's fine. I enjoy terrible hockey as much as the next person because it's an enjoyment of the game. You're still playing, you're still being active. Like you're providing fulfillment to your life. Like it doesn't always have to be the highest level possible. Like the older I get, and I was actually talking with someone who is currently in the NCAA and will be a head coach of a program someday. And like, he was talking about like, I really didn't think much of these levels of hockey, but the older I get, the more I appreciate just like people are having fun, getting enjoyment out of it. And I think that's absolutely massive as well. And I really lost my train of thought, but I was really fascinated by this experience on Tuesday of how so many different people can have so many different backgrounds and depth of knowledge, and like how as coaches or how as players can we increase that depth of knowledge where we're able to do exactly what we've been talking about today, is start to like think through the game And it doesn't have to be, I need to think through every single thing of every single play, but at least have an element or two in your mind that you can start to read the cues and be able to have more enjoyment out of the game because you can actually see the game. Like it's not just happening so fast and you're like, I have no idea what the heck's going on out here. Like it's just like, that's not fun. Like there's a lot more enjoyment once you start to understand some of the intricacies, a little bit more of the details of like, oh, that was like really interesting. Wasn't a ton of goal scoring in this game, but man, did you see this and that, the other? Like that's fun.
You and I think talked relatively recently about the league that I've been playing in is it kind of varies between sort of say BCD, and there's maybe a couple Bs, but they're pretty heavy on C and D. And a buddy of mine who I got into playing hockey, I got him into playing hockey when we were in college. And he's been that mindset for a long time of, I want to touch the puck more. I want to get more shots. I want to figure out where to be in the right place more often. And we had a game where he took a loose puck kind of at the blue line wall, skated all the way around down below the goal line. And I saw him use his offhand to fend off a defender, and kind of made a one and a half hand backhand pass into the slot to me for a one-timer. And the conversation him and I had after, he was like, holy whatever, I'm seeing plays. Like there's strategy to what I'm doing. It's not so much just whack-a-mole with the puck and try to get the puck on my stick near the net. Like I realized what I wanted to do, and I carried out multiple steps, multiple variables in making that happen. And seeing that, and seeing people, guys light up, their faces light up, and they're like, I made a play. Like I had a very strong impact on the game because of a play I made, more so even than just someone passed it to me and I shot it and scored because the net was open. Like I play made. And seeing guys develop from maybe that I played with for a handful of years that just started skating to now, going through those mind progressions.
Yeah, and you sent that clip over to me, and then I immediately had to text him about how excited I was for him. So he texted back, and I think this is a fascinating, like, just the text that he sent back I thought was just great. He's like, thanks, dude. So fun. Still getting better every day, but so much fun to play with a plan and a vision. And in parentheses put, even if I half the time can't execute, versus just being out there and skating around. Like just even having the ability to see it a little bit better itself brings more enjoyment as you're playing the game. Like I thought that was so cool. And I was really happy to see that he was enjoying playing more by just being able to think through these situations a little bit better. And I think that's really the enlightening conversation we're having about all of these topics, is just like being able to see the game makes it more fun to play, and you've got more goals and you're having more enjoyment. Again, I think it comes back to not just hockey, but life, having more fulfillment when you have purpose in what you're doing and trying to understand the details and ask questions so you can start to see these things, whether that be life, hockey, etc., and having just fun with it. Like I have so much more fun now playing than I did back then because I get to just do it with my buddies, think through the game, try something new, and it doesn't work out. Like, okay, it's men's league, like, whatever. And that's actually something we did very early on when I started coaching with Matt Cook, or Cookie, out at the University of Akron. Is we started a men's league team with our alumni. So now we were filtering in our actual college team with our alumni. One, great networking. Two, it's exactly what you said. You don't have to worry about getting your head taken off. You can try things, and the development from the players that, and it's not just the ice time, but the ice time's nice and getting more ice, like the mental capacity and how players play the game. The development is unbelievably more rapid because they're playing adult league compared to competitive stuff where there are real consequences physically, scoreboard, etc. And it's a lot of a burnout if you're not having success. Meanwhile, adult league, you're having fun, with the alumni. You're growing your game. You can make decisions. You can make mistakes. You're getting that peer mentorship a little bit, and being able to see the game start to open up for these kids. It's just so, so cool.
Getting goosebumps thinking about that. I mean, that sounds like that. Some of my best memories looking back, from coaching Bantam High School are seeing, I mean, going back to what we talked about in the last time I was with you on the podcast, seeing kids having a blast, seeing them love hockey as much as I love hockey. Like when they're having fun. One of the last practices with the high school team that I was with, I told everybody, I want everyone to come in for the next practice. We're gonna end up splitting in half a good bit of the practice. Come in wearing your favorite team's hockey jersey, your favorite player's hockey jersey. And I mean, guys showed up in jerseys from every team, and we broke up into lights and darks, looking like the All-Star game. And I mean, guys were trying everything, and hey, watch my Datsuk move, watch my Kucherov move, wearing the jerseys, and I was like, this is a much needed distraction from the COVID life that these kids are going through right now. And sometimes it's that. I mean, sometimes it's, sometimes that's what hockey is.
I think that is the perfect way to end this episode of the Hockey IQ podcast. So, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk on this. I think this is a fascinating conversation, and a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment and enlightenment out of this conversation. And hopefully you can take this and share it with teammates, fellow parents, coaches, etc. Because I think it's something that has yet to be talked about. I definitely haven't seen it out there on many different levels. So thanks again, Mike. This was awesome.
I love doing it. Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I did. So before we let you go, though, we'd like to remind you to please like our podcast, subscribe to it, give us a follow, and share this with all the hockey people in your life. We really appreciate growing this community, this podcast. Remember, we also have a newsletter, the Hockey IQ newsletter as well. Really excited to continue to grow this. So please help us grow this further by liking, subscribing, following, and sharing with everyone. So appreciate you all. Take care.
That concludes this week's episode. Thanks for joining us here at Hockey IQ. If you haven't already, take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and drop a review. If you want to be a great teammate, even recommend us to a friend. You can follow us at Hockey's Arsenal on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the website, hockeysarsenal.com, where you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter. You won't regret it. Catch you beauts here next week for a brand new episode.